This is the second part of the speech, God's Hope for America. The central point is the founding of the United States. Reverend Moon describes the arrival of the Puritan pilgrims in North America as an unprecedented act of faith and sacrifice, guided by God. The courage, devotion, and total reliance on God of these early settlers are presented as the foundation for the blessing and prosperity of the American nation. They are portrayed as champions of faith, whose prayers secured the country's independence. So let's move on to the second part of the speech, God's Hope for America. America, God's Christian nation.
The people in Jesus' time were anxiously waiting for the Messiah, but they were thinking only about their own national glory as Israel, God's chosen people. They did not understand the universal mission of Jesus Christ. It was God's purpose in sending the Messiah to the chosen people of Israel that the Messiah should unite with the chosen people. Then they could become soldiers of faith, to fight, and to achieve the salvation of the world. The foundation for the Messiah was laid through Jacob, the champion of the family, and through Moses, the champion of his people. Finally, the Messiah came for the nation of Israel. He was to be the champion of the nation and the champion of the entire world. God's purpose is not the salvation of a single church or a single nation. It is God's will that he sacrifice the lesser for the greater. Therefore, he will sacrifice the church or the nation for the world. If today's Christians think only about their own salvation, their own heaven, and their own well-being, then they are not living according to God's purpose. If we are only concerned with the salvation of our own families, we are not worthy of God's blessing. If people focus only on benefiting their own people, or only their own nation, then they are absolutely going against God's will. God will give you your own salvation. When you become God's champions for the salvation of the world, your own salvation is guaranteed. Now, the Christian population is probably 1/7 of the total world population. But among these, very few are devout Christians. And among devout Christians, how many truly fight for the salvation of humanity? We all must devote ourselves to the salvation of the world. God cannot be happy with man if we live in a self-centered way. I met Jesus personally, and I received the revelation through which I learned that God's affliction is great. His heart is suffering. Today, God is ceaselessly working for the ultimate salvation of all humanity. He needs his champion to succeed in this world. The purpose of God's church is to save the entire world. The church is God's instrument, and this fact was exactly what the chosen people of Israel forgot in Jesus' time. Starting with this understanding, we will now continue our historical perspective and determine how much America has been blessed. After Jesus' crucifixion and glorious resurrection, the Christian church spread throughout Asia Minor. Rome was the main precursor. Rome was the target because at that time Rome was the world. For the world to be saved, Rome had to be conquered by the army of Jesus Christ. But this was an impossible battle, an inconceivable goal. The Roman Empire appeared as an impenetrable fortress not subject to conquest. Jesus' army was unarmed. They used no weapons, no swords, and no spears. They were armed only with the love of God and Jesus Christ. They marched forward fearlessly, with conviction and strength. They paid the price with blood and sacrifice. There can be no stronger army than one that does not fear death. No enemy is invincible against an army of faith. History bears witness to the actions of this army of Jesus. The Roman Empire finally fell, and Jesus conquered Rome. Roman Catholicism became the center of God's providence of world salvation. The Pope was in a position to become God's champion. However, in the Middle Ages, great corruption appeared in the Church, and Christianity disintegrated its spirit. The hierarchy of the medieval Church was interested in its own power, its own authority, and its own well-being. The Church enjoyed formidable political and economic power. The hierarchy preserved this power, abused this power, and forgot God's purpose. They clung tenaciously to their positions and cruelly persecuted any opponents. The church leaders claimed the lineage of Jesus' disciples, yet they could not rise above their own sins. The Christian spirit in these men, was absolutely buried. But God had to move on. He is never satisfied with less than a complete answer. The church needed reform, so the religious Reformation came. Martin Luther launched the new Protestant Reformation, and he waved the banners of dissatisfaction that quickly swept across Europe in a storm of revolt against the power of the church. These Protestants denied the old church of their fathers. Throughout the land, people of righteousness determined to obtain freedom from old doctrines and practices. They wanted to worship God, not the church. Equality in the eyes of God was their claim. Direct communication with God was their desire. These people helped God to bring the world step by step closer to the ultimate goal of salvation. Later in England, the people again protested against the intolerable corruption of the autocratic church. There was a cry for the purification of the Church of England. The Puritan movement began and spread rapidly even amid great persecution. These new entrepreneurs threatened the leaders of the established church, who used all means to suppress the new movement. Those who truly wanted the freedom to worship soon had to flee or were imprisoned. Their spirit was strong, but they had neither enough power to resist nor any place to return to. They fled to Holland, and they still hoped for some new world, some new heaven and new earth, where they could find freedom to worship God. America must have seemed attractive to those who were dreaming of a new world. Although America was an unknown territory, it promised them the freedom to worship they longed for. The Puritans felt a strong desire to create a community of their own. America seemed an ideal place, so they made a courageous decision to venture there. They embarked on the treacherous journey across the Atlantic. They risked their own lives, finding strength in their faith, which was stronger than their own lives. Think about this. They had to give up their families, their relatives, their environment, and their country, and set out for an unknown land. Their only hope was in God. Every step they took, they depended on God. Their journey was long, and there were many storms. They prayed incessantly to God. They had no way back. They turned to God. When they were sick and agonizing during the journey, they had no medicine to take, no doctor to care for them. They turned to God. Those pilgrim men and women were one with God, and that is how they survived. Put yourselves in their position of total trust in God. What wonderful faith. I am sure that the pilgrims' faith touched God's heart, and when God is moved, He offers promises, and when He makes promises, He will fulfill them. God determined to give these faithful people the thing they most wanted, freedom to worship. He then determined to give them even more. I am sure you know, as I learned, that the Mayflower ship arrived at Plymouth Rock in New England in late winter. November in New England is quite cold. The fate of the newcomers could have been reduced only by starvation, because there was so little food to eat. Given this fact, it truly inspires me to know about the stock of grain on the Mayflower that they did not touch, although they were starving to death. They preserved these grains to plant the following spring. This was a supreme example of sacrifice. They preferred to die hoping for tomorrow rather than acting in desperation for just a few more days of life. The pilgrims came to this land, full of purpose and hope. They knew that this purpose was more important than preserving their own lives. Nothing could have given them this kind of courage, this kind of dedication, this kind of sacrificial spirit, except their faith in God. When they arrived in Plymouth, the 41 men who had survived the voyage stood together and organized their ideas for a government. The result was the Mayflower Compact, which was signed, "In the name of God, Amen." This is truly a wonderful story. This small group of people left Europe with their hope established in God. They grew up and died in God. They survived in God. They formed their first government and signed their official documents, "In the name of God." The story of the first pilgrims is unique of its kind in the history of God. It fits the pattern of righteous people in history, such as Abraham, Isaac, and Moses. These pilgrims were the Abrahams of modern history. That is why they had to endure many difficulties even after the Mayflower Compact was signed. During the first winter in America, the population of the strong Mayflower survivors was halved. Every day that winter brought a painful separation from those loved ones. One by one, these brave pioneers died. However, their lives from morning to night, from dusk to dawn, were centered on God's will. God was their only comfort, their only hope, and their only security. God was the main partner for them. This was an example of such a rare and pure group of God's people. They demonstrated tireless faith, and God gave them power and courage. They never lost their trust in God and their vision for the future. Their purpose in coming to America was to build a nation where God could reside, where they could truly share fellowship with each other and enjoy God's companionship. All this was in accordance with God's providence, because He needed a nation to serve as His champion for the ultimate and permanent salvation of the world. Thus, another miracle came for the Pilgrims. When they were only a few survivors and their population had scattered, the Indians could easily have flayed them with a single blow. But again, God protected them. The first group of Indians that the Mayflower survivors encountered was not hostile. The Indians welcomed the settlers. If the Pilgrims had been destroyed at that time, there probably would have been no America for God. God intervened to save His people here in America. This is my conviction. God wanted them to settle, and He gave the Pilgrims a chance. As the settlement's population grew, they had to repel the Indians to expand their own colony. Of course, originally this land did not belong to the new American people. The Indians were the inhabitants of the land, and the Pilgrim settlers seemed like invaders in the eyes of the Indians. Why then did God give these settlers their great chance? This is my interpretation. God sided with the American settlers because this was in His plan. Furthermore, these American settlers met God's requirements and truly demonstrated unwavering faith in God. God could not help but give them a promise and fulfill that promise. America's existence was in accordance with God's providence. God needed to build a powerful Christian nation on earth for His future work. And after all, America belonged first to God, and only then to the Indians. This is the only interpretation that can justify the position of the Pilgrim settlers. This continent of America was hidden for a special purpose and was not discovered until the appropriate time. God's people came at the appointed time. They came to shape a new way of life. Their main partner was God. At home, caring for their children, farming, cooking, or building, they allowed God to share their work. God was the only security they had. A farmer spoke to his son while working in the fields with him. Let's cultivate this field in the name of God. Their daily life was lived in the name of God. After the first spring visited them, they cleared the fields, planted, cultivated, and harvested, and they attributed all their precious harvest to God's grace. Thus originated the beautiful tradition of Thanksgiving. Following the next harsh winter, the first thing they built was a church. At night, in the morning, at dusk, and at dawn, they prayed to God. I am sure they prayed, God, we want to build for you a place that can be better than the old world. We want to build a place where you can reside and be the master. And they also had a vision for the future, that this Christian nation would do more good for the rest of the world than any other country on the face of the earth. I am sure that after the church, they built a school. They wanted excellent schools for their children, better than any existing school in the old world. And their homes came last. After they built these homes, they dedicated them to God. This is the story of your Pilgrim fathers. I can envision the old America as a beautiful America, because God was dwelling everywhere. In school, in church, in the kitchen, on the street, in any gathering or market, God was dwelling. I understand that in America, you are approaching the 200th anniversary of your nation. Therefore, let's examine the people who led the independence movement in this country in 1776. Those freedom fighters were traitors in the eyes of the British Crown, but God could use these traitors as His instruments, as His people, and through them, God conceived and built the best nation on earth. George Washington, Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army, tasted the bitterness of defeat in many battles. When he finally faced the last harsh winter at Valley Forge, he was serious. I am sure George Washington prayed like this: God, it was you who led our people out of Europe and brought us to the New World. You do not want us to repeat the gray and somber history of Europe. You freed us and gave us liberty. You do not want us to see the mistakes of Europe repeated in this land. Let me make an oath. I will build a nation under God. Thus, George Washington made his battle God's battle, and so in achieving victory, it was a victory of God. I know that this victory in America's independence came because God accepted George Washington's prayer, along with the prayer of many other Americans. God knew that his champions would work for his new nation. But George Washington had nothing, and the British Army had everything: power, authority, tradition, and equipment. They were proud of their military strength. The American Continental Army had no ammunition and few soldiers. George Washington finally had a single weapon: faith in God. I believe that George Washington's position parallels David's position in the fight against the giant Goliath. David won his battle in the name of God. Both asked God to defeat their enemies. Each of them put all their heart, all their being, all their spirit of sacrifice into the battle. And they won. Now it is a significant fact that throughout history, God's people could never be blessed in their own homeland. God moved them from their homeland and settled them in a foreign soil, and there they could become God's people and nation. According to that pattern, the American people traveled with faith from their homeland, came across the ocean to the New World, and here received God's blessing. God had a definite plan for America. He needed to have this prosperous nation as a nation under God. With God, nothing is impossible. Thus, out of the reality of impossibility, America's independence became a fact, and on this foundation, great prosperity came. The British Army fought for their king. For them, the British crown was supreme. The American Army fought for their king. God was their only king, and only He was supreme. The New World was pioneered in the name of God. America is called the land of opportunity. Here is the soil in which the people found opportunity in God. The Christian tradition is the most beautiful thing for foreigners to appreciate when they come to this country. I learned that every day your Congress begins with prayer. Your president is sworn into office with his hand on the Bible. One day I visited a small prayer room in your Capitol building. When your leaders have important decisions to make, they come to this place, humbly kneel before God, and ask for His help. There is a stained glass window that depicts George Washington kneeling in prayer. Here, I saw the true greatness of America. From the high echelons of Congress to the rustic customs of the countryside, evidence of dependence on God can be seen everywhere in America. In this respect, America is a nation without equal. Even your money, your bills and coins are printed with such a beautiful inscription: "In God we trust." No other nation does such a thing. So whose money is it? Is it your money? Is it American money? No, it is God's money. Every bill and coin says so. You are the guardians, and God has deposited His wealth in your hands. Yes, this nation is not the American nation. It is God's nation. And such a nation exists for the entire world, not just for America itself. Yes, America was formed as a new nation, a new Christian nation under a new tradition. The chains of the old tradition fell far from America. You must want to build a new nation under God. God's purpose is the salvation of the world and all humanity. Therefore, today in America, you should not think that you possess such wealth because you are great by yourselves. We must humbly understand that God's blessing came to America with the purpose of making it possible for God to use this nation as His instrument in the salvation of the world. If America betrays God, where can God go? If America rejects God, where can God go to fulfill His purpose? Do you want to let him try to go to the communist world? Or to underdeveloped countries? God wants to have America as his base, America as his champion. And America began in the sacrificial spirit pursuing God's purpose. America must consummate its history with the same sacrificial spirit for God's purpose. Then America will stand forever. Let me compare two remarkable examples. The people who came to America, to North America, came in search of God and freedom to worship. The exclusive motive of the first settlers was God. When they came for God, they not only found God, but they also found freedom and wealth. At the same time, many peoples went to South America. Their exclusive motive was to find gold. South America is fertile land, no less than the North American continent. But when the colonial motivation was gold, they found neither gold, nor God, nor freedom. And the countries of South America remain as underdeveloped nations. America is the miracle of modern history. You built the most powerful nation in history in a short time. Was this miracle possible only because you worked hard? Certainly you worked hard. However, hard work is not a sufficient explanation. If God had not been the main partner, today's America would not have been possible. God played a paramount role in American history, and this, he wants America to know. The time has come for the American people to be awakened. Because of the noble beginning of this country, God sent his blessing and promise. The sacrificial devotion of your ancestors was the foundation for God's blessing. If you betray your ancestors, if you betray God, there is only one way for America to go. It will be to go towards destruction. Since America was built on the pillars of faith in God, if God moves out of American life, your nation will be unsupported. Its decline will be rapid.
This was the second part of God's Hope for America. Don't miss the continuation of this speech. In the next part, we'll see the warning given to Americans. Did you like the video? Then don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next video. Comment or ask a question. I'll be happy to answer. I also greatly appreciate a like.